Welcome to Ole Football, and this is Footballers with Mental Health Problems. Dele Alli, a footballer who was predicted to have a bright future and was considered the top English talent, last summer he made shocking revelations in an interview with Gary Neville. He shared that he has mental issues and had even spent 6 weeks in a rehabilitation center recently because of his addictions to sleeping pills and anxiety. The psychological difficulties for Alli trace back to his childhood. His mother suffered from alcoholism, and when Dele was 6 years old, he experienced SA from his mother's friend that left a huge fingerprint on him. Now Dele is trying to return to the previous level, but according to Everton training staff, he is far away from his previous form. Yes, he became a star temporarily, but his mental state is broken, and unfortunately it's affecting his career and life. Jesse Lingard had a promising career ahead until he started to wither away in Man United. The fans of the Red Devils were frustrated and chirping Jesse for his low performance. It got to the point where Man United fans started to insult him on racial grounds, which was especially painful for Jesse. The fans didn't understand what was happening with him, and for Lingard, circumstances became so difficult that he couldn't avoid losing his mind during that period. He had to admit his mother to a clinic because she also has mental health issues, and his grandfather was diagnosed with cancer. During the coronavirus season, Jesse's condition worsened. Isolation had a severely negative impact on him. Lingard stayed at home and rewatched his old successful matches. To cope with the feeling of anxiety, he began practicing yoga. In July 2020, Lingard scored his first goal in a year and half a year later, he went on loan to West Ham. There, a bright resurgence occurred. Even Gareth Southgate brought him back to the national team, but he soon fizzled out again. Danny Rose in the mid-2010s was a pretty decent left-back that meant to become the next Ashley Cole. He was a key player for the England national team during Euro 2016, but then fell into deep depression. Danny's struggles began with his first serious career injury. He tore his cruciate ligaments. And on top of that serious injury, doctors mistakenly decided not to do the surgery. The player was given injections, but in May he finally went under the surgery. Because of those 4 lost months, he fell into depression. He couldn't hold the negativity inside of him, and during the interview, he lashed out at Tottenham due to his wages and the club's recent transfers. The situation worsened because neither the club nor the press knew about Danny's problems, so the defender was attacked from all sides. During that period, the footballer's mother faced racial discrimination, his brother was almost shot, and his uncle took his own life due to depression. Rose turned himself to the team doctor, who directed him to a psychologist. The player returned, and he was even included in the squad for the 2018 World Cup. Craig Bellamy's story is intertwined with the tragic fate of Gary Speed. Many know that the Welsh midfielder became a coach, but in 2011, under unclear circumstances, he took his own life. This deeply affected his friend Bellamy. Craig was a troubled teenager. He experimented with alcohol and drugs at an early age, was a rebellious child within the family, skipped school, was arriving late to training, and ignored exercises given by coaches. His potential was recognized at Norwich, where he made his professional debut. However, depression was consuming him from the inside. Craig's career was on the rise, but he was becoming increasingly unhappy. We know Bellamy as a troublemaker, but few really pondered why he seemed so drawn to being a bad guy. The reason lay in his troubled inner state. The loss of his friend Gary Speed was supposed to finalize this process. Additionally, around the same time, his wife left him, but Craig forced himself to change his life. He didn't let himself slide into total depression and sought help from a psychologist. A year ago, Bellamy joined Vincent Kompany's coaching staff and is currently working at Burnley. The legendary Italian goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon first fell into depression in 2003. Nobody was hating on him, especially because he was the most expensive goalkeeper in the world who has proven his price. His career was on a strict upward trajectory, but as the Italian admitted in an interview many years later, for several months everything lost its meaning. Everyone considers Buffon as a super positive personality, but his problems were evident in his eyes. His personal life took a hit, plus there was the defeat in the 2002-2003 Champions League final. Gigi couldn't shake off the 2003 final for a long time. According to his words, he experienced what he described as a panic attack. Buffon's 2-month treatment involved regular visits to a psychologist. The goalkeeper went on to have a great and very long career. He managed his mental problems admirably and openly talked about it in interviews, trying to draw attention to this enormous problem that society often just ignores, sometimes even mocks, and in the end can lead to tragic outcomes. Andrés Iniesta, the Barcelona legend, the scorer of the winning goal in the 2010 World Cup final and second on the FIFA World Player of the Year list that year, experienced severe depression in 2009. It continued even into the year of the World Cup, but during that time, he managed to pull himself together for the sake of the major tournament. It all began after winning the 2009 Champions League final. Iniesta had played 90 minutes, Blaugrana took the cup, but the very next day, the Stars' mood plummeted drastically. During the training camp in the USA that summer, Andrés couldn't train with everyone else. Alongside his depression, there was also an injury, and he spent 2 weeks working with a physiotherapist, and just when improvements in his mental health were becoming evident, he was struck by a terrible piece of news. His close friend Dani Jarque from Espanyol had passed away from a heart attack. Iniesta entered a period of free fall emotionally. Andrés even considered skipping the World Cup, but his teammates Pep Guardiola and the club supported him through this difficult period. The head of the medical staff also connected him with excellent psychologists. Therapy produced results. By the time of the World Cup, Iniesta was once again focused on football. The World Cup trophy became the best medicine for Iniesta. In Josip Ilicic's childhood, there were a lot of traumatic events. It's not surprising why the player has psychological problems because he is a child of Yugoslav wars. Ilicic's father was killed when Josip was only 7 months old. His mother, along with her son, moved from the Bosnian town of Prijedor to the Safar, Slovenia, but the child often had nightmares about combat actions. The footballer moved to Italy in 2010. It seemed like life was getting better. A good contract. Palermo with Cavani and Pastore, then Fiorentina. However, at one point, Josip's wife raised the alarm because he was experiencing depression. The doctor even diagnosed him with bipolar affective disorder. With such a diagnosis, the mind needs rest and care. But Ilicic's life was hit by intense stresses. Davide Astori, whom Josip was friends with at Fiorentina, passed away, and soon after, the player himself nearly died. He barely recovered from a lymph node infection. In March 2020, the Slovenian showcased his talent for the last time, a poker in the Champions League round of 16, but the isolation due to the pandemic and that he caught his wife, Tina Palavina, in their house, betraying him to another man. All of this has greatly affected the mental health of the footballer, who is reportedly facing depression that took a toll on him. Currently, he plays in his home country for Maribor. Sebastian Deisler was one of the brightest German talents at the turn of the century, who didn't fully realize his potential due to his mental health issues and ended his career too early. At the age of 22, he was transferred from Hertha to Bayern Munich. The negotiations were conducted secretly, and the fans were very unhappy about it. The player faced criticism, and this was the first instance when the talent felt that he struggled to cope with the pressure. In Munich, Deisler arrived on crutches. He was recovering from a cruciate ligament tear, which caused him to miss the 2002 World Cup. Soon after, Sebastian tore his cruciate ligaments again. In each of the seasons, he faced health problems. Over the course of several years, he accumulated 15 injuries and underwent 5 surgeries, after which his mental state deteriorated. Bayern Munich even admitted Sebastian to a psychiatric clinic. He returned to the field in November 2006, but after a couple of substitute appearances, he ended his career. Deisler was only 27 years old at the time. Robert Enke was a favorite among Hannover fans, and was a very good goalkeeper who played 8 matches for the German national team, but few knew that Robert struggled with deep depression his entire life. According to his wife, the first signs of mental disorder appeared in Spain and worsened in Turkey during his time at Fenerbahce, in a match against Istanbulspor where he conceded 3 goals and club fans humiliated him from the stands. Enke spent 4 months idle before the winter transfer window opened. Unemployment was killing him morally. In Spain, Robert first sought help from a psychotherapist. Returning to Germany saved Enke's career. At Hannover, he immediately became a key player and later won the title of best goalkeeper in the league. However, in September 2006, Robert's only daughter Lara died from a congenital heart defect. The girl was only 2 years old, and this tragedy affected him deeply. Over time, Enke finally played for the national team and was awarded the goalkeeper of the Bundesliga for the second time. Later, an adopted daughter appeared in the family. Enke was afraid that the guardianship authorities, upon learning of his diagnosis, would take the child away. There was another phobia, the fear of appearing weak in the eyes of others, and in the end, depression got the better of him, and he threw himself under a train on November 10, 2009. Enke's death shook not only Germany but the entire football world. 40,000 fans escorted him from the AWD arena on his final journey. He was buried in Neustadt, not far from home.